Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Tarot Podcast. I am so happy to be here today with Lettie Jane Rennekamp, the creator of the Many Queens Tarot. Lettie Jane is a Portland based artist. I encountered her work on a trip to Portland for the Northwest Tarot Symposium a few years ago and just fell in love with the Many Queens deck. It is extraordinary, different, and just exciting, I think, to use, which, whenever I post pictures of it on, on my socials, people are like, "What is that deck? I have to have it," you know? So I wanted to ask you, first of all, our first of our 5 questions, what inspired you to create this deck? Where were you coming from in tarot? What did you see that was missing in the world of tarot? And what sort of spark ignited in you as an artist as you decided to make this desk?
Thanks, Susan. I came into creating a tarot deck backwards. I started this as a drawing project first and foremost, and I
Mhm.
had been like casually or lightly reading tarot for maybe 10 years, starting with getting an Aquarian tarot deck in my 20s. And
Yeah.
I had more recently been working with like a creative coach who was a tarot reader and used the tarot to sort of guide our work together. And so I had like what I would call like a 75% familiarity with the tarot prior to illustrating the deck. And then it was a period of my life where I had done a series of 100-day projects. And so I was like, oh, I'll do 100 days of drawing the tarot. And
Wow.
what I have to say is that it was like the most exciting 100-day project I ever did. Like it really I would say like arrested my attention, and it was something where every single day I was so excited to be able to draw, and I was just really wrapped up in it and really thinking about it. And I really love as an artist when I kind of feel like maybe some of my ego goes away and I feel like a channel, and I'm being less, worried about what the art is about or what's going to happen with it, and just really excited in the creation.
Yeah.
And so that was definitely the case with this project. And it wasn't till I was fairly far along, probably more than halfway, that I'd had several people be like, when are you going to make this into a deck? And I didn't have, like a huge, this was in 2018. And I had two indie decks myself at that time that felt like they were maybe invitations to like, oh, that is something that could happen. I had the Small Spells Tarot, and then I had Slow Holler, which was a
Oh, wonderful deck.
really beautiful
I
queen.
missed my chance on that, but it's a gorgeous deck. Yeah.
It feels very, I was very inspired by that deck
Yeah.
because of the writing too. It felt like it was coming from this therapeutic modality that gave me a
Yeah.
lot of like some writing about the tarot can feel almost really punitive, and it felt more like there was
I
like
know exactly what you're talking about. Yes.
there was like a lot of access for action in that deck. I know that if I had like been like, oh, done the market research and been like, what does the tarot community need, what are we lacking,
Yeah.
um, I would have felt too intimidated and not gone through with it,
Yeah.
because I think that would have inhibited my creative voice in a different way. But the real the real drawings, what was really coming for me as a message was just that I was kind of trying to draw this new version of beauty and like body imagery, and just sort of queer and femme and alternative
Yeah.
beauty standards that felt like I needed, not in tarot specifically as much as just like in the world.
In the world. Yeah.
And I do feel like since like in the last 7 years, that has really shifted in sort of a bigger, way, just seeing, fat underwear models or trans
Yeah,
women on the
yeah,
fashion runway, things kind of
yeah.
like that I felt like I hadn't seen much of in 2018.
Mhm.
So that's really like the place that it was coming from for me personally, was this like, I just want a different version of beauty in the world that celebrates. And I was directly looking at the Rider Waite Smith cards every day as a jumping off.
Ah, I see, I see. Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I felt like there was just like a little bit of like queering the patriarchy that was happening for me.
More
Like
than a little, yeah.
there
Yeah,
was a lot of
yeah.
like, how do there are alternative forms of family or relationship, or, ways of being in the world that have changed in the last 100 years. So
Absolutely. And it's very interesting to me to hear you say that you were using Rider Waite Smith as sort of a jumping off point, just to look, just to have with you. And also that you started with the Aquarian deck, which I think is actually quite a difficult deck to get to know as a first deck. But I can feel, when I look at the images, they are so idiosyncratic and beautifully drawn and playful and weird, but I can still feel the history of the tarot and the meanings, that many people are, have a consensus reality about coming through. And I think that must have had to do with your process that way.
thank
Yeah.
you.
So, question number two, how did you create these images? I understand that this is a style that anyone anywhere would recognize as Lettie Jane Rennekamp. I saw your beautiful mural at the Sea Grape Apothecary in Portland, and I was like, I need the deck that has that style. So, tell us a little bit about how this style originates and how these cards come to life technically.
I mean, I'm a lifelong drawer. I love drawing, and I definitely use it to process my feelings and just ease my nervous system. So it comes from that. As I mentioned, it was a 100-day drawing project, and I started every illustration. I did them all in my large scale sketchbook, so 8 by 10 sketchbooks, 8 by 10 inches.
Do
And
you
then
use pencil first?
I did some like
Hmm.
rough general sketches with pencil, and then I would just
Hmm.
use a black brush pen to fill them in. And I was definitely doing these, as a daily drawing project. I was doing them in process all the time. So, I was teaching, and I would take, my break and draw one, or I would do it, if I got coffee with someone, or I would do it at night or in the morning. So they were kind of like very integrated with my life, I would say. It wasn't like I was setting a certain time or um,
Yeah.
space for them. But it was definitely like I had like a sense of like urgency and excitement to do it, really. It was really, yeah,
Yeah.
I almost can't emphasize that enough as someone who's made a lot of art pieces in my lifetime. This was one of the most like, I have to do this feeling ones that
Did you really do it in 100 days?
I did. I did it, yeah, in
That's
78 days.
amazing.
And then
Wow. So a card a day, literally.
I did a card a day, and then I used sort of those last, 22 days for what I then did, like the cover and the, scanning and editing, and I sort of,
Amazing. Were there any that you were like looking forward to or dreading doing?
as we're talking about it right now, I can just kind of remember I had, when I had completed them, I had the opportunity to go back and edit or redraw any, and that I had this feeling at the time. I was like, man, and I don't feel this way about most art projects, but I was like,
Yeah.
I really feel like what came out the first time was right, you know? And there were
Yeah.
some where
Yeah.
there were a lot where I was definitely editing along the way, but one
Mhm.
specifically that I did edit quite a bit when I was scanning and sort of developing them for the actual cards was the devil. And I mean, that's
Mm.
kind of a classically challenging card.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
comes up. Yeah,
All right. So it sounds like your process was actually totally analog until you got to the scanning part, I guess.
it was, yes.
That's amazing. That's kind of unusual these days, it seems like, for tarot artists. So, yeah, that's cool. And there's, I think, maybe that contributes to the spontaneity of the line that you can really see in these drawings. Okay, so that brings us to question number 3, which is that, most tarot artists find as they're drawing a deck that strange synchronicities occur as you're working on the deck. And, for that reason, sometimes people are a little nervous about starting in on the swords or whatever it is. But I thought I'd ask you about your experience and whether any interesting synchronicities occurred with particular cards.
Yeah. I loved this question when you sent it to me. I was like, yes, it's so amazing. um, and as I had mentioned, when I started the project, I felt like I was like, oh, I know what 75% of the cards mean from my head, but like there was like always
Yeah.
these ones where I was like, I need to look that up again. Um, and and this specifically is like one of the things where I was like, the experiences that I had along the way really taught me the tarot,
Yes.
in a deep way.
Yes, you lived the tarot, yeah.
Yeah. And so the first one that I think is really interesting was the Seven of Swords, and that one
Mhm,
was actually one that I illustrated before I started the project at all.
mhm.
I got
Oh,
it
really?
I got it as a like place card at a restaurant where that's how they brought the order to you.
Really?
And
Huh.
um, and so I was on the second date with someone who I knew I didn't want to go out with, but I was like, I'll give them another chance. And then that came to the table, and like I mentioned, I just always have a sketchbook, and so I had brought it out and was like, oh, I'm just gonna make my own version of this drawing. And I did, and the Seven of Swords was one of those cards that I didn't have an immediate reference for.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
when I looked up the Seven of Swords meaning again was like, oh yeah, you're deceiving yourself. Like I'm deceiving myself for this, what is the objective here? Like to please this person and make them feel okay. And what are the ends for me? Is I'm just doing a lot of emotional labor and then we're both more upset at the end of it.
So the 7 of Swords could have been, you deceiving yourself or the other person who was forcing you to do all of this heavy lifting.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that just became like kind of an unforgettable lesson about that card for me.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and then when the 100-day project came up, I was like, "Oh, I loved making that drawing. That's what I want to do." And so
Oh, that's great.
I had a funny one about the Five of Swords, which was another
Mhm.
card that I didn't have a lot of familiarity with or had a hard time
Yeah.
remembering.
Mhm.
And I was visiting a friend of mine in the Bay Area who am not, don't keep in touch with as much as I would like to. They're someone I dearly love, but our long
Mhm.
distance relationship, just the communication falls off, which is
That's
already a little
natural.
bit of a
Yeah.
Five of Swords theme. And
Yeah. Yeah.
when I went to see them, I was like so excited to catch up on all the things. And they were like, "Hey, would you like to have some of the CBD chocolate that I got?" And I was like, "Yes, of course. Sounds great." And inevitably, it was actually THC chocolate. And
Oh gosh.
so stoned that I couldn't talk. And I just spent the rest of the night with my head in the couch. And I had just been like, I was so excited to chat, like stay up all night chatting with my friends, and then I had to put my head in the couch, and I just thought it was like
Yes.
a very
Yes.
like 5 of Swords, the like mist, you know,
Yes, it's a hit or a miss, it's like a missed opportunity. And and it's interesting because you can see in the card that, here's this person in the foreground who's pretty excited, pretty jacked, and then there's these people in the back and they're just like, those guys are just not seeing each other.
yep.
So I love that. And it's a very gentle, I think, and lovely anecdote about a card that a lot of us can feel some apprehension about, because it does have a lot of, I don't know, salty feelings about it, I think.
And then my last like one that I thought about it just imparting that I thought was
Hmm.
really sweet was when I was illustrating the Ten of Pentacles. I was at I had a meeting of a small business support group for women that I was in at the time, and
Hmm.
we had gathered at someone's space, and there was like some people had their kids there, and some people in the group are older and some people in the group are younger, and so I was
Yeah.
illustrating that drawing at that time, and
Hmm.
I just was working on it, and one of the kids came up and was like, "What is that person doing?" And I was like, "Oh, they're playing with the other person's hair." And it was sort of this, it felt like this creative direction from a kid
Yes.
where I was like,
Yes.
"Oh, this to like look a little bit more like they are playing with their hair or tending to them." And it really
Hmm.
felt like that was one of the cards where I knew specifically I wanted to kind of take away this, father figure looking at his children and the dogs and everyone
Yes.
and be more like there's like a room for a chosen family and for this sort of like
Yeah.
interdependent community, and it was just like a beautiful feeling of like, oh, I do feel like I'm building that right now, I am
Yes. Yes.
in
It's
this
it's
moment
they
building it.
kind of seem like a super organism together, all of these
Yeah.
people sort of beautifully entangled, and you can't quite tell where one stops and one begins. And it's just, but you can feel that multi generational sense of affection and warmth circulating around. What about the fox in the foreground?
That's such a great question. I did
Hmm.
have this, I have a sort of a fox, dog, coyote that comes up a bunch in my deck. And I had my best friend and I had this like conversation throughout our 20s and into our 30s about like the coyote that was at our back. And it was
Yeah.
often like a thing where like if we were, not really like acknowledging how we were really feeling in the moment, then it would come
Mm.
out if we were drunk, or maybe we would like sleep with somebody that we didn't want to. There were like sort of like the messy emotional things that can kind of happen in your
Yeah.
20s that we started calling like, oh, that's our coyote. Like we could
Oh my God. Yeah.
have been, like a little more self-aware before then. So I
Yeah.
put it in the deck a lot as this like invitation to kind of turn back into yourself and what you really want and listen to yourself basically.
Mm, So kind of a more instinctive part of the personality, maybe?
Yeah, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
beautiful way to put it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think just for myself, I think I spent a lot of my life, trying to do things for other people without orienting towards myself first. And,
Yeah.
as much as there's value in doing stuff for other people, if you aren't putting on your own oxygen mask first, you're gonna make a mess.
It's true. I really like this because, on the Rider Waite Smith, you usually have the two sort of greyhounds or whatever they are in the foreground. And here one of them is a fox. And I think that that's, we are all a bit feral underneath. And I
That's
think that that acknowledges it,
yeah.
Um,
And there's like around this time, my little beagle Jack Russell had died. That
Oh,
before this.
yeah, yeah.
He's in a lot of these too, and the moon
Ah,
has
yeah.
a coyote and a beagle Jack Russell.
Yes,
So,
yes. Yeah, and the fox is kind of giving you this kind of askance look, kind of like like the horse in the Six of Wands of the Rider-Waite-Smith, sort of like I
yeah.
love that. Question number 4, which is, would you like to tell the story behind one card in your deck? Now, we've told sort of little stories about the synchronicity, but usually there's a story that, touches the artist in a way that's resonant and that you might want to expand upon. So, what would that be for you?
Yeah. Um, as I mentioned, the major arcana I did last because I was intimidated and I wanted to
Yeah,
make sure that I
sure.
felt confident by the time I got to them. So I definitely have like a much sort of, I mean, they're deeper cards, but I have a deeper relationship to almost all of them, right? And
Yeah.
the one that I picked to talk about was the Empress, simply because it is sort of an illustration of a direct person and sort of this
Oh,
archetype that I'm coming into, which is
yeah.
the Empress I have has these two really different sized breasts.
Yeah, that's true.
There had been someone who I met who had come off to me as this like incredibly confident and fairly like stereotypically beautiful woman. And I was really intimidated by her and almost like a little like, almost like had a little bit of an adverse reaction to this person, I was just like, she's just so, she's pretty and she's talented and she's got,
Hate that.
and I don't know her very well. It's someone who I kind of met in passing, and we were
Hmm.
spending time with a group of people in a week, and we all went swimming one day, and then that
Hmm.
was the what her body looked like is she had one
Yeah.
large breast and one small breast, and
Yeah.
it feels like almost like pat to say now, or
Hmm.
like, it's almost like reductive, but there was this part of me that was like, wow, she can come off as so confident and create beautiful things. And she has something, that culturally we would malign, basically, two
Mm.
size breasts. Like that would be
Mm.
like a standard of beauty that feels deviant or not
Yeah.
regularly celebrated. And so
Yeah.
I had this like shift where I was like, wow, if she can, feel this way about herself, like, we could all feel this way about
We
herself.
could all feel about that way
And
about ourselves. Yeah.
just the
Hmm.
feeling of the Empress with like abundance and that sort of like
Yeah.
femme, like what I think of as like femme richness.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah,
like,
totally.
oh, this feels like like something I would like to add into that archetype
Mm.
in
Mm.
terms of body love and
Yeah. Did you have any communication with her about the card? Did you talk to her about it, or does she know?
nope. She was definitely like a person I met in passing and I don't have contact with in my 20s.
Yeah.
So, now
Wow.
almost 20 years ago, but it was just one of those moments. And for me in my own path with just like body acceptance and sort of navigating what level of femme or woman
Mhm.
or non-binary I'd like to be in the world. I feel like there's been a lot of moments for me where I think of just noticing where women or female characters can embody confidence, and yeah, and that just had been one of those things in my head. So I
It's
don't
so
even know her
interesting.
name anymore.
It's so funny. It's like, we come across people in the course of just living our lives, and some of them that we may never see again just have an archetypal power
Yeah.
that moves us. And now she's forever immortalized.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful card. It really is. And yeah, I see that you included the Empress's scepter, which
Mhm.
is the pretty normal to see. And she also has kind of this. infinity sign diadem kind of thing going on in her hair, which I just love. It's so fascinating. Mm.
Yeah, I have the like Ouroboros on my body here.
Ah, yes. Ah, yes. The Ouroboros.
I
Yeah.
feel like just as
Yeah.
someone who has, throughout
Yeah.
my life kind of dealt with depression and
Yeah.
been, a sensitive human in the world, that
Yeah.
embracing the cycles and knowing that, sometimes these lessons come back around and then I shed my skin and I approach them differently. That has always felt like a really important
Yes.
symbol to
Yes.
me.
And I think that works really well with the Empress too, because of her kind of, her powers of regeneration and
Mhm.
bringing forth life out of out of everything.
Yeah.
Okay, so this gets us to exciting question number 5, which is let's do a reading. I'm going to shuffle your deck, which has heretofore been in order so I could find the cards. Um, and, with question number 5, I offer the artist the opportunity to ask a question about what's going on in your own life. And then we will use your deck to try and find some kind of direction. So yeah, let's hear what's on your mind.
Thank you so much for doing this for me.
Yes.
I this summer I had my Oracle deck come out. It's called the Listening Oracle, and I haven't celebrated it formally yet. I haven't like thrown a release party or
Yeah.
hosted a gathering about it, and so I had sort of thought that I would do that this fall, and now that's feeling too soon. And
Yeah.
so I I was just wanted to ask you and
Hmm.
my other deck, like, what is the best way to I want to the words that are coming up are like, what's the best way to hold the listening oracle? Maybe it's just
Yeah.
celebrate
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
bring forth the listening oracle.
Okay.
When
Tell me a little bit about the Listening Oracle. Is it so? It's an Oracle deck. It's not a 78 card tarot deck. What's the sort of vibe that you have captured?
Yeah, it's they're round cards, so they can kind of be read
Ooh.
rotating.
Yeah.
And they are all about the creative process. About it's definitely coming from my perspective. I was an artist, and creator. Um,
Hmm.
and I wrote descriptions that are a little bit more expansive to, chefs or poets or
Mm. Hmm.
anyone who's sort of like in a
Yeah.
creative work, anyone who's making creative work. And a lot of times, like, we were just talking about the Ouroboros and the cycles, and I
Yeah.
felt those emotionally, but I also feel very in tune with the creative cycles of sort of, fallow periods and periods of
Yes.
abundance. I mean, I'm thinking
Yes.
like, the Empress is an abundance period. And of course, death is like deeply meaningful to me as a creative person because we don't often get to celebrate those downtime.
Yeah.
Everyone I know
Yeah.
who makes art or has those periods, especially after you create something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I've been allowing your Many Queens Tarot to sort of listen to the description and get a feel for the listening oracle. And let us see if I can draw one card to help, you said, hold the listening oracle as it comes further out into the world. Let's see. Is it this one? Or is it this one? Nope, it's this one. Okay, let me put the rest of them to the side so that we can concentrate on what we've gotten. I'm so interested to see what it is. Okay. All right. And it is Hey Lover. I
Yeah.
love that. So you've renamed the lovers Hey Lover, which is, very much I think in the spirit of this kind of playful um and non-prescriptive energy of the deck. So, and your angel has glasses. I love that. So, so before I jump in with my ideas about this, is there any sort of reaction you want to share about getting the lovers or hey lover for the listening oracle?
Yeah. I mean, I have like a tarot practice that is what I think of as like my tarot light, where it's almost like I ask yes, no questions and get like really immediate answers, often just
Yeah,
upright reversed, that sort
yeah.
of. And like in the tarot light practice, that just feels like such a big yes,
It's such a big yes. Yes, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that comes to mind, I mean, I look at the angel and the angel is like, holding and protecting these levers in the card and there's there's a very feeling about it like your listening oracle just has to come out into the world and needs to be seen and celebrated. Um Also because another thing that occurs to me is, with the levers, you have two people who are beneath the sort of angelic form. And, and there's, with the lovers, it's always like there's a twinning effect with it because of the two people. And it's almost like, the Many Queens Tarot is like, that's my twin, my twin, the listening oracle. And, it's almost like you have two children.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, historically, the one of the esoteric names of the lover's card is the children of the voice divine.
Mm,
So this says to me something about how your listening oracle also wants to speak,
mm,
you know, and to
mm.
be heard. So, I think that that's encouragement to move forward as soon as you're comfortable with it, and not to be afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Yeah.
It's you're such a magnificent talent and the world just deserves to see more of you.
Oh, thank you so much. That is so kind.
So yeah, the lovers. Oh, can you say what was behind renaming it?
Yeah. And it's funny because there's a couple like I love that you're saying like idiosyncratic takes that I have in there, but
Yeah.
I did struggle with how much do I rename any of these cards? The
Yeah.
Hanged Man is maybe one where I was like, oh, maybe I would feel more confident now just calling it the Hanged One.
Mhm.
I had seen a lot of other takes on what we want to call each card.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's probably just that I have like struggled around the Lover's card energy,
Mm. Mm.
just spent a lot of my life, really deeply thinking about and agonizing over romantic relationships, and then feeling like I wanted to just kind of like mess with it a little bit, yeah,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
maybe make it feel lighter in a way. Because
Yeah.
it's funny to be like, oh, I didn't mess with the devil in the same way. I messed with
Yeah.
lovers. So it's a little bit like the other thing that I had done was just doing the pentacles as tiny diamonds was for me this
Yes.
just being like, oh my gosh, I really struggle, with managing my money, with talking about money, with asking for money for different projects. And it's just something that, I have been working on for,
Mhm.
15, 20 years,
Yeah.
how to feel comfortable with money as something that doesn't have an emotional trigger to it. Like if I have money, it's
Yes.
sad. If I don't have money, and
Yeah.
so the
Yeah.
diamonds just felt like this really like almost like goofy cartoony version of wealth that I was
Yeah.
messing with.
Yeah.
And then, diamond mines are sort of not like painful,
Yeah.
horrible art, version of
Yes,
me.
yes, but those diamonds that you made really sort of raise the question of what we value and why we value it, and and it's interesting also that they're so small, in the scope of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm definitely like I love just moving into the pentacles as like grounding cards generally. And so it felt
yeah,
like
yeah.
I was kind of trying to almost like mock the wealth as
Yes,
material. But
like,
the
yeah,
stainless
yeah,
steel
cartoon diamond money bags kind of energy, yeah. Well, that's great, and I just love the way this deck, plays with and transforms these archetypes that we've all kind of grown familiar with, and to see a deck that's so different, but also works as a tarot deck, I think speaks to the depth of your engagement with your own practice, as well as the sort of magical, um, what the sort of alchemy that happens when you take something that's meaningful to you and bring what you have to bear as an artist to that. So thank you. It is a tremendous gift to the world, and I've so enjoyed talking about it with you.
Well, thank you so much, Susan.
It's really been a pleasure. And I wish you luck with the listening oracle
Thank
and
you.
hope we'll talk again someday.
All right, wonderful.